So let's continue where we picked up from part 1, and now we're going to find our half angles a different way with different information. So I'm going to give you this information. So given that the cosine of theta is equal to 2/3 and theta is in between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi, so aka it's in quadrant 4. What we want to do is we want to find the sine of theta over 2, the cosine, right, of theta over 2, and let's also find the tangent of theta over 2. So those are the three things that we're going to find. So the first thing I need to do, if theta is in quadrant 4, I need to actually figure out where the theta divided by 2 is. So what I'm actually going to do is up at the top, I am going to multiply everything by 1/2. And if I do that, I'm going to get 3 pi over 4 is less than theta over 2, which is less than pi. Now, my theta over 2, my half angle, is actually in quadrant 2. Okay? Visually, how we can actually see that represented. Right? So here's my quadrants. So here is my actual theta, right? Boom, right there. And my new theta is somewhere probably in here, right? Bam. This would be your theta over 2. So it makes sense that it should be in the second quadrant. So I can only use the cosine of theta, right? The half, double whatever that guy is. So the first thing that I'm actually going to find is I'm going to find either the cosine or the sine of my double angle. That's the first thing I'm going to do. So let's find the sine. Okay, quadrant number 2, I know that the sine is positive, so I'm going to let that be. So this will be 1 minus the cosine of theta all over 2. So this will be 1 minus 2/3 all over 2. Make that become a fraction of 3 over 3. So this will become the radical of 1/3. And instead of dividing it by 2, I'm going to multiply it by the reciprocal 1/2. So this will become the radical of 1 over 6. And again, I'm showing you all the steps that you don't necessarily need to show. But here is my answer. I get theta, sine of theta over 2, so half angle of theta, is equal to a positive √6 over 6. I'm going to take the same information and I'm going to find the cosine. So the cosine of theta over 2. Now this time in quadrant 2, cosine is negative. So I got to put that negative sign out. And if we remember, it should be 1 plus cosine. So this will be 1 plus 2/3 all over 2. And again, make that become a 3 over 3. So this will be 5/3. Multiply that by 1/2. So this will become √5 over √6. Multiply both top and bottom. And I get a negative √30 all over 6. Now, for tangent, I'm actually not going to use any of these half angles. Okay? What I'm going to do is actually use the quotient property. Quotient property tells us that tangent is made up of sine over cosine. So that means the half angle of tangent is made up of the half angle of sine divided by the half angle of cosine. Again, less work for me. So theta over 2, we've already figured that information out, root 6 over 6. I'm going to divide that by the cosine, so negative root 30 over 6. Multiply by the reciprocal. Those cancel out. I'm going to write this as one giant fraction really fast, so that way I can simplify before I start rationalizing. So 6 goes into 35 times, so it will become a 1/5. This will be a negative 1 over the radical of 5, which brings you down to that. Negative root 5 over 5 for the half angle of tangent. Alright, let's try one more example. So for this one, what I want us to find is just the cosine of theta. So what's the cosine of theta? This is the given information. I am given that cosine of 2 theta is equal to 1/2, and that theta terminates in quadrant 1. That's the information. So I mean, I could use my double angle if I wanted to, but I want to get practice using my half angles. So my half angle, cosine of theta, because half of 2 theta is theta. So again, plus or minus radical, and then this will be 1 plus cosine of 2 theta all over 2. Terminates in quadrant 1, so I know it's positive. And I'm just going to plug in my double cosine. 2 over 2, so this will give me a 2 over 2 will give me a 3 over 2. Multiply that by 1/2. So this will become a root 3 over root 4. And there we go. Root 3 over 2 is our final answer. And if you think about it, the double angle of cosine, when it's 1/2, that actual answer is actually on our unit circle. That's at 60 degrees. What's half of 60? 30 degrees. And there's your x-coordinate for 30 degrees.